Hello everyone, so today we would like to present to you our report for the subject Introduction to Statistics. For this report, we need to do some research in our UiT Endungun. So we decide to do research on usage of transportations among UiT Endungun students when going to their class. Transportation is very common and very important for the students as they use it to move from other locations to other locations, because the main purpose of transportation is connect people to the destinations they want. In the UiT Endungun, there are numerous types of transportation provided, which are beams, bicycle, motorcycle, vans, and Grab car. There are also students that use their own car and go to the class by walking. From that, we can explore the pattern of transportation among UiT Endungun students. Plus, the transportation also will impact the students' overall academic performance because it can influence the students' punctuality to arrive to their class. Plus, by knowing the transportation choice that are made by the UiT Endungun students, we can identify the potential challenge and areas for improvement in the transportation's infrastructures that are provided in the UiT Endungun. For that, we choose this topic as our group project investigation. Next, we move on to the objective for our research. There are 5 objectives for our research, which are: the first one is we want to determine the UiT Endungun students' most used transportation mode when going to their class. Second, we want to investigate the frequency of transportation mode usage among UiT Endungun students when going to their class in a week. Third, we want to know the cost spent on transportations among UiT Endungun students in a week. Fourth, we want to study the time durations the UiT Endungun students spends when going to their class. The last one is we want to find out how convenient for UiT Endungun students when transporting to the class. We choose non-probability sampling method to collect respondent data, and we decided to use convenience sampling. This method do not have rule and it's similar to SRS, which is simple random sampling, but then no random concept. It describes a sampling technique in which samples are chosen according to the decision field convenience. Our survey focused to one population, which is UiT Endungun, but the population selected to be surveyed are only 160 students. It's easy to us to contact or find respondents since we are part of UiT Endungun student as well. All the respondents we get will be used for our final report, and all the information we gain from respondents are used only for the purpose of this survey. To get data of students, we prepare online survey method by create Google Form. We prefer this method because it found more convenient to us and the respondent. It's easier to send out the questionnaire from laptop or mobile device. We don't need to prepare a paper to survey anymore. And the participants have option either they want to answer the survey by laptop or mobile phone. They have option to answer the survey whenever it is found convenient to them. There are 5 questions with multiple choice related to the transportation in UiT Endungun. We provide questions that are related to our main objective, such as which transportation mode they usually use, how much they spend on transportation, and the time taken to arrive. Then we share the Google form. We have a subgroup class and any related group among your attending students. The advantages for organizations are time saving because they don't have to look for respondents physically, and all the data to be keyed in automatically on the platform whenever a response is received. Then we can achieve accurate data and are able to provide a verifiable report based on the survey done. Then there are no time limit too, so it is more flexible for respondents to answer the survey whenever they are available. Also, the respondents don't need to prepare an answer since we already provide the multi-chosen answer, so they need to choose only one based on their preference.
Let's move on to the next part, which is data analysis and results. So what are the results from the data and how do we analyze this? So first, you have to make sure that you identify if the data is either qualitative or quantitative. So right now we will cover for qualitative data. So what is qualitative data? Qualitative data is a non-numerical data. The first question that we asked in the questionnaire was the gender of the respondent. So the first one is we do a frequency distribution of the genders. So as you can see, for the male is 51 and female is 109. This is a pie chart showing number of students based on their genders. As we can see, majority of the respondents are female, which is 68.13%, and the remaining are from the male, which is 31.88%. We can see that the percentage of male is like half of the female. Next, question 2 from part A is also a qualitative data where we ask about the resident status. So why do we ask this is because it's slightly different if you're resident or non-resident. If you're a non-resident, you don't have access to van or beam. Take all this data into a frequency distribution. Resident will have number of students of 119 respondents and non-residents are 41 respondents. So we will transfer the data into a pie chart. As you can see, majority of them are resident, 74.38%, and the remaining balance are 35.63%. Let's move on to the part B of the questionnaire. For the first question is a qualitative data which we ask about their most used transportation mode. So I have 7 transportation mode which are walking, van, grab car, on car, bicycle, beam, and motorcycle. As usual, we will construct a frequency distribution table, and from this table, we will transfer it into a bar graph. So as you can see, walking has the longest bar compared to the other transportation mode. After walking is followed by on car, and after that, there are 2 transportation modes that has the same frequency, which is grab car and motorcycle, which is 11, and then in decreasing order we have van and beam. The least popular transportation mode is the bicycle, which is only 5 respondents. Question 2 from part B is also a qualitative data. In the question, we ask how frequent do you use the same transportation mode. If you selected walking, do you always walk when going to classes? So we give them 3 choices, which is always, sometimes, and rarely. So if you use rarely, is 0 until 3 times. If you use sometimes 4 to 5 times, and always is more than 6 times. So as you can see, most of them regularly use the same transportation mode, which is for always there is 88 number of students. Then for the bar graph of sometimes and rarely, can see that they are almost similar, which is for sometimes there are 37 respondents and rarely are from 35 respondents. Last but not least, question 5 from part B is the last qualitative data. So we ask about the convenience level of using the transportation mode. So we have 4 convenience level, which consists of very convenient, convenient, inconvenient, or very inconvenient. The frequency for convenient is higher than the very convenient. That is slightly different for very convenient, which is 31.88%, and the remaining balance are for inconvenient and very inconvenient. Inconvenient has 10% higher than very inconvenient, which is 14.38% and 4.38% respectively.
So next, let's move on to the second part of the data analysis and result, which is quantitative data. Quantitative data is a numerical data. From this study, we only have two questionnaires about quantitative data, which is part B question number 3 and part B question number 4. So the first question that we ask is how much did UiTM Dengung students spend on the transportation in a week? Firstly, we do the frequency distribution table of cost of transportation in a week. As you can see, this is a frequency distribution table of cost of transportation in a week. We already classified the class limit, which is the cost of transportation in RM, and the frequency, which is number of students, the class boundaries, the midpoint, and the cumulative frequency. They found that the majority of the students with the value 108 students spend 0 to 10 ringgit for their transportation, followed by 23 students that spend 10 to 20 ringgit with cumulative frequency is 141. Based on the study, has only one student that spend their money on 30 to 40 ringgit on their transportation. You can see there are 7 students spend 20 to 50 ringgit, and followed by 5 students spend 40 to 50 ringgit, and 6 students spend their money at 50 to 60 ringgit for their transportation. And for the midpoint, we total up the lowest and the highest class boundary and we divide it into 2, and then we got the midpoint value. And how do we got the cumulative frequency? The first row of the frequency, we add to the second row of the frequency, and then we got the cumulative frequency, and followed by the next frequency. So we will use the data to transform to the graph, which are histogram, frequency polygon, and algorithm. So these are the histogram and frequency polygon data. For the y-axis, we use class frequency, which is the number of students, and for the x-axis, we use class boundary, which is the cost of transportation. And for the frequency polygon, we use the class midpoint to plot the data. Next, let's move on to the algorithm. So we use cumulative frequency for the y-axis and the lowest class boundary for the x-axis. So let's begin to the measure of central tendency. We have analyzed the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mean value is 10 ringgit and 63 cents. On the average, the cost of transportation for UiTM Dengung students is 10 ringgit 63 cents. And for the median, we got 6.78. And half or 50% of the students spend less than 6 ringgit and 78 cents. Followed by the mode, we got
5.54,
meaning that majority of the students spend
5 ringgit and
on their
54 cents.
transportation. Next, measure of dispersion. For the variance, we got
150.55.
and we square root to get the standard deviation, and then we got
12.27.
on the average number of cost of transportation by students deviates from the mean by as much as
12 ringgit 27 cents.
So this is our shape of distribution graph. We just insert the mean, median, and the mode. Next, we move on to the second questionnaire that related to quantitative data. The question that we ask is how long does it usually takes for UiTM Dengung students to arrive to class using transportation? As usual, we do the frequency distribution table. And these are the frequency distribution table of time required to arrive to class using transportation. Based on the questionnaire, we got 78 students that spend only 1 to 9 minutes to arrive to their class, followed by 59 students that spend 10 to 90 minutes to arrive to their class, and 50 students spend 20 to 29 minutes, and at 30 to 39 minutes got 5 students, and none of the students spend 40 to 49 minutes to arrive to their class. But we got 3 students that spend 50 to
59 minutes
to arrive to their class. And as usual, we must minus 0.5 at the lowest class boundary and 0.5 at the highest class boundary based on the class limit. And then we total up the class boundary and divide it into 2 to get the class midpoint. And there are the cumulative frequency. So these are the data that we will use on our graph, which is histogram, frequency polygon, and algorithm. So these are the histogram and frequency polygon graph. Same as the previous graph, we use class frequency for the y-axis and the class boundary for the x-axis. And we use the class midpoint to plot the frequency polygon graph. And these are the algorithm of the time required for UiTM Dengung student to arrive to class using transportation. We use the cumulative frequency at the y-axis and the less than class boundary at the x-axis. Next, move on to the measure of central tendency, which is the mean, median, and mode. And we got the mean value at 12.19. On the average, the time required for UiTM Dungan student is 12 minutes. And then we got the median value at
9.84.
half or 50% of the UiTM Dungan students spend less than
10 minutes.
And for the mode value, we got 8.54, meaning that majority of the students spend
9 minutes.
on the transportation. And then we move on to the measure of dispersion. And we got the variance value, which is 91.87, and then we square root to get the standard deviation, and then we got 9.58, meaning that on the average number of time spent for UiTM students to arrive to their class deviates from the mean by as much as
10 minutes.
and these are the
Shape of distribution graph.
we got the
The positively skewed distribution graph because the larger value is mean.
To the final destination, which is the conclusion. So from the data analysis that we have done, it's abundantly clear that all the questions asked in the questionnaire is really related to each other. So for example, if you use walking as a transportation mode, it's safe to assume that you're a resident because it's nearer to your class. Use the same transportation mode because you will barely have any other vehicle. You have to assume that you only spend 0 ringgit on transportation because you only walk. The duration might be longer than any because you have to walk rather than using engines. So finally, we ask about the convenience level. We believe that UiTM still needs to improve in transportation system to make sure that all the students can feel more comfortable when going to class, as this involves their punctuality and disciplines in studies.